first off, welcome to the students. It's great to see you again. Enjoyed my time at your school. And Renee, thank you for the invitation for Promising Pals. You talked a little bit about this writing program. I got my letter about a week and a half ago. So I wrote my first letter to one of the students. And it's an exciting program. It's an easy way to get involved. It's great to have so many of you here this morning committed to being participants in the Boston Partners in Education program, but also coming to learn about Boston Partners in Education. My name is John Roche, and I run the Customer Success Group at Salesforce. And I was lucky enough to be out on a run with a fellow board member, Marty McDonald. Where are you, Marty? So there's Marty. So I was out on a run with Marty, and he says, you know, have you ever heard of this program, Boston Partners in Education? I said, I don't know anything about it. And he said, well, you really should seriously consider getting involved. And at the time, I hadn't really been involved in an organization at all. And Marty said, this one might be something that's good for you to think about. So I didn't know much about it, so he told me a little bit on the run. And then I looked into it myself, and I thought it was great. Two things I thought really lined up well. One was, you know, it's about education, and it's about children, students. And I think that, you know, in terms of my own personal experiences, education unlocked serious opportunities that I might not have had. And so I thought this was a great chance to come back. The second part was easy to get the support of my company behind us. Many of you probably heard Mark Benioff, and he really started a new business model, right? Software as a service. But he also started a new philanthropic model, what we call the 111. And it was about integrated philanthropy, and it was about thinking about, you know, the assets of the company, which is their people, our technology, and our resources, and bringing those together to community to make a difference. And it's really easy. I knew I could get involved, but I also knew that I could get the power of my company and being able to offer Boston Partners our technology to use to run their business, which has been exciting for me to help out and to do that. You know, Boston Partners in Education takes a similar approach to building sustainable partnerships with both individuals and companies, as you heard this morning. And that's a big way to really make a difference in the school and beyond. Now that you've heard my story, I want to introduce Keith Block, who's the honoree for this year's gala. And I took a page out of Marty's book when I was traveling with Keith. And I said, Keith, what do you think about getting involved in you know, Boston Partners Education? He didn't know much about it. And I was just getting to know Keith because it was like 3 years ago he just started the company. I found out he was a history buff, and you guys see how important he's talking about background and history is important to education. But I've seen firsthand from Keith his commitment to giving back. Personally, Keith's on the road probably 52 weeks of the year, but he's committed to Boston and our school systems, and he's got involved in the Big Cheese Reads. But I've also seen Keith get involved in the greater global community, which has been really important. And I've seen him when he's on the road take the opportunities to get involved in the local community as well, and I think that's why we're honoring him. So I'm you know, certainly impressed with his commitment to service, even with the work schedule and travel schedule he has. So I'd like to introduce Keith and have him say a few words.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hopefully everybody's caffeine is kicked in. I certainly has. Thanks, John, for those kind words. It's a little humbling to be up here and be called an honoree when I'm looking at people over at this table. When you think about really who the big cheese heroes are, it's not me, I'm no big cheese, but you are the big cheeses. I think we should give these folks a round of applause. So as John didn't tell you, we weren't out for a run around the road, and John was eating a cheeseburger, and he hit me with so he knows that I have a weak spot for that stuff. Anyway, thanks for being here this morning. Thanks for even having an interest in Boston Partners for Education and the Big Cheese program. Just out of curiosity, how many people in the audience actually read to these kids? Okay, so about half, and the other ones are teachers, so that doesn't count. You're disqualified. I started with Salesforce 3 years ago, as John said, and one of the things when I came into the company that people talk a lot about is the culture, and the culture of the company, and the strength of the culture of the company. And you know, anytime you start a new organization or a new endeavor, you find out that, you know, okay, culture is important, but what does that really mean? Well, I got a pretty heavy dose of culture from the get-go, because this is real at Salesforce, and the foundation is real. And John alluded to the 1-1-1 model, where 1% of the company's time for all of its employees, 1% of the revenue, and 1% of the product is given to organizations that do good work in the community. And I was blown away by that. And actually, the easiest way for me to assimilate to the Salesforce culture was to get involved. So when John brought this up, I thought, well, in the past, giving to me was writing a check. And we can all write checks. We can write checks for $10, we can write checks for greater amounts, but that's not really giving. Giving is participation. And I thought I had an opportunity to do something here for something local, which is really important, because this is my hometown. Largely speaking, I grew up in the western suburbs, but it's still my hometown. And it gave me an opportunity to get back to a community that I thought really gave to me when I was a kid growing up. So I grew up in a town 20 miles west of here. The students over here probably heard this story. So I'll try not to put you guys to sleep. But I grew up in a town, Lexington, Mass, 20 miles away. And I wasn't given a choice when it came to education. I had great role models with my parents. I had great role models with my teachers. I had great role models with my friends. Quite frankly, I was set up for the perfect system. And when I look at my own children, of which I have 5, they grew up in Concord. And once again, those 5 kids, God bless them, they've been set up for life in a perfect system. They're very, very fortunate. And what's real, and I share this with them every time I see them, is that there's a world outside of Lexington, there's a world outside of Concord, where it's not all like that, where there may not be a parent in the home, or there may be one parent in the home, or they may not have the resources that they had available to them in Lexington and Concord, or the importance of education is not what it should be in certain parts of Massachusetts. And kind of a foreign subject, when you go around the world and you talk to people, I grew up in a high school where 90% of the kids went on to college. Okay? That was back in 1979. I don't know what the graduation statistics are now, but I wonder if it's as high as 90%. And what is it in the inner city? So when John approached me, I was really inspired by what he had to say. I was very inspired by Joe Antonellis, who's not here, because Joe was one of the busiest people in the world, but he had the time to make something happen here, so he got involved. So that made it kind of a no-brainer for me. And then I had an opportunity to go and read for the first time. And, I didn't know what to expect, okay, but I was prepared, or at least I thought I was prepared. And I went to a school in the North End to read to these kids. And I got to tell you, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I absolutely loved it, because you look at these kids, and so many of them, they just want an opportunity. They just want to see a vision. They want to know that there's a world outside the community that they live in. And they want to know that there are other role models than maybe what they see at home or what they see on TV. Because who knows, the Kardashians may be on 24 hours a day. This is my house. Those are the role models for my kids. But I remember talking to these kids, and again, this was in the North End. And I thought, I'm going to do a little bit of reading. I'm a fan of history, and Karen mentioned that. And I do think it's important that people know their history, because if you know your history, you know where you go, where you can go, and what the possibilities are. So I thought, well, we're 2 blocks from the North Church, the Old North Church. I'm going to read in the Midnight Ride at Paul Revere. And I was presumptuous, and I thought, hey, everybody knows where the North Church is, the Old North Church. How many of you have been to the Old North Church? Okay, everybody almost raised their hands. Well, to me, growing up in Lexington and being a history buff, you should know the history of this area, because it's the birthplace of this country. It all started here. When I go to the West Coast in San Francisco, I tell those people it really started on the other coast. It didn't start in San Francisco. And they say, it's Lexington, where's Boston? So I read this poem, and I loved reading to these kids. And then they asked me some incredible questions after I read to them. The first question was, Mr. Block, how much money do you make? Well, Paul Revere was a blacksmith. Mr. Block, do you ride around on a plane? Well, Paul Revere, it was one of my land through my sea. Mr. Block, do you know Beyonce? No, I didn't know Beyonce. But the point I was trying to make to these kids was, understand your history. It's really important, and history and reading go hand in glove. The second opportunity that I had to read was in Charlestown, in a school that was near Bunker Hill, and it was the same thing. I thought, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to teach these kids about the Battle of Bunker Hill and Breeds Hill. And it was the same thing, and it was wonderful. It was a great experience, and I'm reading the story, and you know, right away, where do you travel to? Well, let me tell you about the Battle of Bunker Hill. And then the Timilty School, which I think has been, quite frankly, because of Karen, my favorite experience. And that was fun. And I went in and I read the story of Christmas Attucks. I'm pretty sure most people in this room don't know what Christmas Attucks is. So it's okay if I ask you, do you know what Christmas Attucks is? Okay, two. Okay. Dennis knows because he was there that day. Christmas Attucks, if you've heard of the Boston Massacre, which happened in 1770, Christmas Attucks was the first person who was African American who was killed by the British. And you can go over to Faneuil Hall and you can see, you know, where it happened, and there's a monument on the Boston Common. But to me, it was important to share that with these kids because it's a little bit of history. And they should know the story of Christmas Attucks. And you know, when you think about the challenges that these kids face, and the challenges, quite frankly, that the teachers face, in terms of making a difference and being a guiding light for these kids, it's a huge challenge. And at Salesforce, we always talk about part of our culture is driving customer success. But I think when you talk about education systems and the Big Cheese program and the Boston Partner in education, our job is to create a culture of success for these kids. That's what it's all about. By providing them with the resources they need to be successful. Whether it's education, whether it's incredible teachers, whether it's role models, whether it's our time. But if you really take a step back and think about what it is that we can do to affect these kids' lives for the rest of their lives, because they had one interaction, because they had one story, because they saw somebody, because at the end of the day, everybody in this room had a role model growing up, probably had many role models, whether it was a coach or a teacher or a parent or a family member. You know, people benefit from multiple role models. And one of the things that I love about this program is the opportunity for all of us who are involved to play a role model, to help build that culture of success. Because, you know, somebody said it earlier, I don't know if it was Pamela, but it might have been Jay, but it is true. The kids, we hear this so much, it's become a cliche. The kids are our future. Well, they are. And to me, if you solve for education, you solve for everything. If you look at all the ills in the world, if we have highly educated kids, it's a different place. So I am very, very passionate about this program. I'm very, very honored to be honored. I'm actually thrilled, but I'm the big cheese. The big cheeses are at this table. So with that, I know we have this gala on April 11th. Very excited about that. I hope everybody gets an opportunity to participate. I think we're going to try and make it a great time. I understand that it always is. So I'm excited to see you and look forward to your participation. So thanks very much.